The first is the Customs Act 2026. This voluminous document, Customs Act 2026. It incorporates all the amendments that have been done over the years into one single document. And so it codifies all the customs acts into this document. It makes it simpler to administer, and it will make it more efficient, and it will seal the loopholes that have made government lose a lot of revenue as a result of the scattered nature of the law. So that has just been signed, the Customs Act. Then we have the Community Service Act. This is an act to provide for non-custodial service sentences for misdemeanors and other such minor offenses. So instead of putting people in jail and government going to have to pay for looking after prisoners, a lot of prisoners, for stealing goods or for committing some very minor offenses, they can be sentenced to do community service for the period that they are convicted for. So there's the Community Services Act. Then there's the Tribunals Act. The Constitution makes provision for the establishment of regional tribunals. Parliament has passed it, and so this law gives effect to the Chief Justice to set up regional tribunals to deal with certain categories of offenses. There's the Maritime and Related Offenses Act. These are to cover crimes and offenses that are committed at sea. And it gives effect to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which Ghana is a party to. And so this is the local domestic legislation to enforce that particular Maritime Offences Act. Then we have the Act for the National Defense University. As you are aware, we have set up a National Defense University, and this act gives effect to that university, accredits the courses, and makes it a legal and a statutory entity. So there's the National Defense University Act 2026. Then we have the Income Tax Amendment Act. This act exempts people who earn the minimum wage and below from paying income tax. And so anybody who is on the minimum wage or below the minimum wage is exempt from income tax. Then there's the Energy Sectors Levy Amendment Act. It is to deal mainly with fuel oil for the factories and maritime vehicles that use fuel oil. Before they were exempt, and there was a lot of abuse. And so now they are required to pay the taxes and then present their evidence for reimbursement. And so it will plug a loophole that has existed for so many years. So there's the Energy Sectors Levies Amendment Act 2026. Then there's an interesting one, the Ghana Cocoa Board Act. I'm sure our cocoa farmers will be happy. It incorporates the reform of the cocoa sector, and it includes our promise that we're going to process at least 50% of our cocoa beans locally. And so this act incorporates that. Aside from that, the promise we made to farmers that they will earn 70% of the world market price of cocoa is also contained in this bill. So promise made, promise fulfilled. Then you have the Value Added Tax Amendments Bill. This bill is to provide for an adjustment in the value added tax. You remember recently we signed with the large-scale gold mines to surrender 30% of their gold to the Bank of Ghana. This exempts them from paying VAT on it. And so there's the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill. And then we have the Excise Act. So this incorporates all the former laws and amendments on excise into one law. And so it affects alcoholic drinks and other such, cigarettes and other such goods. And it blocks the loopholes for revenue leakage. And so alcohol that is imported into the country, cigarettes and all other such dutiable goods are affected by this act. It also importantly gives exemption from paying excise tax to local manufacturers of fruit juices. It is supposed to give them an incentive in their production. So if you produce fruit juices locally, this act exempts you from paying excise duty. And so that's it. The Excise Act 2026. So 10 bills signed today. And thank you very much.